So this is the 2022 Lexus IS 500 F Sport, and this is a refreshing vehicle because the luxury performance compact sedan has gotten very expensive. Take the BMW M3 for example. It maxes out at or above $100,000, and this is super well priced for what it is, and we'll get right into that in this video. But if you guys are new to CarGurus, we'd love to have you subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss an upload, but let's go ahead and jump into this amazing car. So from the front, you need a very keen eye to tell the difference between this and an IS 350 F Sport. The only difference is this cowl here in the hood. Other than that, you have the same blacked out spindle grille, you can have the same checker LED lights, the triple beam headlights, and a little bit of venting underneath. So on the side, you're gonna have these blacked out window surrounds, you have your F Sport badge, you're gonna have these unique wheels to this trim, you have upgraded brakes, but other than that, there's nothing on the side to really signify this as being the high performance IS, which is kind of disappointing. The last generation IS F had the big vent here off to the side, which I loved. Other thing that disappoints me are the rear wheels. These are about 265 section rear tires. I would have hoped for something a little bit wider because this engine can get you pretty squirrely pretty quick. So in the back, you're going to have this black deck lid spoiler. I love this LED light running across the length of the car. You're going to have your IS 500 badge, your stacked exhaust tips, and a little bit of a diffuser down here. So under the hood of the IS, you have three engine choices. You have a turbo 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated V6, or this 5-liter naturally aspirated V8. And I assume if you came to this review, you don't care about the other engines, you just care about this V8. So this makes 472 horsepower, 395 pound-feet of torque. It's gonna get about 16 miles per gallon in the city, 24 on the highway, hooked up to an 8-speed automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive. So on the interior of the IS 500, there's nothing specific to the 500 that separates it from any other IS. So you have these same sort of black leather perforated seats. You have your moonroof, going to have these touch sensitive lights up here, sort of faux leather on the dash. I do like these big areas here because I'm about 6 feet tall, my knees rest against them, so it is a nice padded area for my knees, which I love. You have heated seats, ventilated seats. You're going to have this little area here where I can slide my finger up and down. It works super well, very consistent for a touch-sensitive operation. You have a CD player, so if you still like to kick it optical, you can do that, and CDs still have the best audio quality compared to Bluetooth and plugging into Apple CarPlay, which this does have. You also have a touch function on this screen, which is nice, as well as using this touchpad right down here. You're going to have this perforated steering wheel, paddle shifters here, which do feel a little plasticky, but not a huge deal. You're going to have this display back here taken straight off of the Lexus LFA. So I basically hit this menu button, the whole display is gonna move to the right, and it's such a simplistic, well-executed display. I absolutely love it. You do have this interesting sort of zigzag pattern on your doors, and I think the biggest downside is that if you are a little bit bigger, this is a very tight cabin. Even these seats are pretty tight on me, and I'm a very slim guy. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think this is acceptable for something like an IS 500, or would you have rather had a more bespoke interior? So in the back seat of the IS 500, you don't have a ton of room. My knees are definitely in the back of the seat. My head is definitely touching. My hair is definitely touching. You don't have any USB ports back here. You do have two vents. You have a very high hump, so fitting a third person is not very likely. If I fold this down, I am gonna have an armrest. I'm gonna have my cup holders in here. You're also not gonna have any storage space here on the door, so for the most part, the back seat is an area for people to sit temporarily, or if you're a small child, you can fit back here, car seat, something like that. But for the most part, for a normal adult, it's not a very comfortable place to be. All right, so driving the Lexus IS 500 F Sport. Now, if you were to plug my ears and put me behind the wheel of this vehicle, I would feel like I'm driving just your normal, everyday Lexus IS. The steering feels exactly the same. I feel like the IS has this very specific and unique steering feel that's really specific to the IS, and this has the same feel. It doesn't feel any tighter, doesn't feel any sportier, it just feels the same. When you start it up, obviously you have your V8 noise, and whenever you're rolling off the line, you notice a lot more torque upon just normal acceleration. But other than that, due to the lack of uniqueness in the interior, due to the lack of uniqueness on the driving experience, it feels pretty standard IS. It's really not until you put your foot down, which I will do right about now, that you notice there's definitely something different going on under the hood. The sound is just incredible, and this is a rock solid bulletproof V8. It has great power. You really have to rev it out. It doesn't make full 472 horsepower until 7,100 RPM. So really ringing this thing out to redline is how you're going to get the maximum performance from this engine. When you're cruising around, it does feel torquey, but it doesn't necessarily feel fast until you're really pinned into that throttle. Now, it's not all bad that this feels similar to a standard IS, because a standard IS is very comfortable. It is a Lexus at the end of the day, and Lexus is very good at delivering on their namesake. And so this has a very comfortable, a very nice compliant ride. And even with this V8 under the hood, you do have a little bit of a sportier suspension setup. You do have a little bit meatier braking, but for the most part, it's a nice, comfortable cruiser. And this feels more like a GT car than anything. It doesn't really feel like a performance-dedicated ISF. It just feels like a Lexus IS that has been turned into more of a big, powerful, grand touring vehicle. Okay, so we're going to switch into Sport Plus. At that point, the steering gets a little bit tighter and your throttle response gets a lot more immediate. So for example, I'm driving, I need to merge into traffic, foot all the way down. Yeah, that gets, sorry, my camera guy's going back and forth. But yeah, that picks up very, very quick. So just be aware that throttle response plus something like cold conditions or anything below perfect conditions, this car will get squirrely on you pretty quickly. But thankfully we're in Southern California where it's always a pretty good weather, so the tires have good traction. Okay, so let's talk about these paddle shifters. Now, I'm in Sport Plus, and there's something very interesting about them. The downshifts, first of all, very fast. So third, second, and then when I upshift, pretty quick. So a lot of it's based off of your throttle and how high you are in the RPM. So if I'm in fifth right now and I downshift, decently quick, then I feel like it gets faster. Faster, the higher you go into the RPM. Same with the upshifts. If I shift at 5,000, fast, but then if I shift at 3,000, so I'm going to shift right now, then it shifts. So it's pretty interesting. It takes a little getting used to, for sure. All right, let's talk pricing and competition. So this is about $62,000 as priced, and this fits in a very interesting area. I've been comparing this to the M3 pretty much the entire video, but the funny part is this doesn't necessarily compete against the M3. This is just a cheaper alternative to those that want a high performance vehicle like the M3, but you can't really afford the price tag that these newer M3s, these newer C63 AMGs are going for. This, I think, fits right in between something like a C43 and a C63. This is going to be definitely cheaper than the C63, a little bit more expensive depending on how you equip it than a C43, but this is going to have a better sound than something like that. It's going to feel a little bit faster. You have a more reliable, more proven engine. And even compared to an M3 or a BMW M340i, the 340i is an excellent inline six with a turbo. This is going to be naturally aspirated V8, which is very hard to find in that class. So it is a unique proposition, and I'm curious what you guys think about it. Would you choose this naturally aspirated V8 over something like an M3, M340i, or a C43 or a C63? Well, everyone, that's going to wrap up my review over the 2022 Lexus IS 500 F Sport. I think it is an excellent car. It's something that we haven't seen in this segment for quite a while, so it is quite refreshing. It isn't the ISF we were all hoping for, but it is a nice, solid Lexus IS with awesome V8 power. Now, the negatives on this vehicle, I would say, is that it doesn't differentiate itself enough from the rest of the Lexus IS lineup. I really wish they would have thrown a little bit more aggression, a little bit more hardware at this vehicle to make it something truly special. But if you guys like the way that Lexus has presented this, let us know in the comments below, because I'm very curious which one you guys would rather have. But if you guys are new to CarGurus, we'd love to have you subscribe. Be sure to hit the notification bell. Visit us on cargurus.com, and we'll see you guys in the next review.